Good afternoon. BC's mayors and councillors are in Victoria for their annual convention, and top of mind are homelessness and street disorder. This follows Smithers hiring private security guards, a proposed iron fence in Nanaimo, and Williams Lake nearly declaring a state of local emergency. Well, from bail reform to more mental health services, we'll hear what cities and residents are calling for. And we're asking you, what is the impact of street disorder and homelessness in your community? And what's needed to finally solve it? I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. Thank you for joining us on CBC Radio, CBC Television, and live streaming as well. And you can call us now on our top story. What's the impact of street disorder and homelessness in your community? And what's needed to finally solve it? Our numbers are 604-669-3733, 1-800-825-5950, or just hit pound 690. You can email bctoday@cbc.ca or leave a comment if you're joining us on TikTok. Dealing with crime and street disorder is one of the main topics at this year's Union of BC Municipalities convention. This is the annual gathering of municipal officials happening in Victoria. And business owners across the province are highlighting crime as their concerns and safety as well. A popular Prince George brewery says it won't reopen unless conditions improve. Crossroads Brewing was burned down in an alleged arson this month, and the brewery's owners told City Council last week they can't commit to rebuilding without major improvements to public safety. Michelle Sakamoto runs a nightclub across the street from Crossroads. It was damaged following an explosion at a building next door, and she says she's having to deal with issues on a daily basis.
It's a struggle. I mean, we come into our building every day to find people loitering around, drug paraphernalia, constant vandalism. They're always trying to break in and damage things. It's really frustrating. We found basically at the front door here, people had jammed in cardboard and paper all underneath and up the sides, in between the door jambs, lit it on fire. As you can see, the smolder marks, and basically tried to push all the coals underneath the door to try burn our building down. It was on the front door and the back door.
That's Michelle Sakamoto, a business owner in Prince George. Meanwhile, Amelia Merrick is with the Prince George Advocacy group Together We Stand. And while they agree that changes are needed, the group worries that the discussion isn't looking at root causes. And the group is sending a letter to Premier David Eby requesting provincial investments in housing and mental health.
Right now, in the city, there are only 10 detox beds available for people. So countless times we meet people who are ready to go on the journey to deal with their addiction. First step is detox, and they're put on a waiting list. They're put on a long process. They can barely get through the phones to get their name on a registry. And by the time there's a detox bed ready for them, they're lost again. So we're calling the province to have urgent action to invest in our mental health and our well-being. That includes detox, that includes addiction facilities, and I would say it includes community-based resources so that mental health is dealt with in a well-being and a proactive manner rather than waiting until the very end.
We are taking your calls on this. Again, our question is, what is the impact of street disorder and homelessness in your community? And what's needed to finally solve these issues? You can call us now. Just hit pound 690 on your cell phone or 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. Our email is bctoday@cbc.ca. Trish Mandewo is a Coquitlam councillor and chair of the Union of BC Municipalities. She joins me now from the convention in Victoria. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Michelle, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. I know it's a very busy day. At 2 o'clock, you are having a session that looks exactly at these kinds of issues. Can you tell me what are mayors and councillors saying that they're seeing in their downtown areas? What does that street disorder actually look like?
Yeah, so mayors and councillors recognize that it is a complex issue that is based in issues like homelessness, mental health crisis, as well as opioid crisis, as your previous speaker just alluded to. And the reality is that despite increased provincial spending in recent years, the gaps are still significant. And what we are hearing is that the issues have now become critical, and they've highlighted some of the cities here, and downtown residents and businesses.
Okay, our connection has just frozen with Trish Mandewo. Let's try to reconnect or fix that. We are taking your calls as well. My guest, Trish Mandewo, Coquitlam Councillor and Chair of the Union of BC Municipalities. Now, at the UBCM, the annual convention that's taking place in Victoria this week, one of the top issues is street disorder, homelessness, mental health issues, and a number of resolutions looking to the province for more funding on enhancing mental health services, as well as calling for changes to bail reform. So we're going to go into that a little bit more, but we're asking you as well what you're seeing where you live. What is the impact in your community, and what do you think is needed to solve it? My guest, again, Trish Mandewo, is back right now. Hi there. Sorry, my apologies for that connection issue there. But you were saying that you were talking about downtown businesses and what they're seeing as well.
Yeah, so downtown businesses feel like they feel besieged, and they're enormously frustrated. So there's a clear message for the province in the resolutions that we have received that says that they need to make this a higher priority. And we also know that social services like housing, mental health care, and opioid crisis are all under the provincial jurisdiction. So we're asking for them to really hone in and make this a priority. And as you said, our members have brought forward resolutions that are highlighting some of these frustrations.
And as you mentioned, that provincial funding, there has been spending on this. How has it gotten to this point? I think we're having those issues once again, unfortunately, with our connection to Victoria. Can you hear me, Trish?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, apologies. So my question was, how has it gotten to this point?
I think it has gotten to this point because the province has really not made it a priority, from our opinion, because we have had resolutions year after year calling for the province to really.
We're going to try and fix these issues. My apologies to Trish and to our audience as well. The connection just keeps, unfortunately, freezing. But as she was saying there, from her perspective, the province has not prioritized issues around mental health and public safety and street disorder. We're going to take a call as we try and fix our connection with Trish Mandewo. Perhaps we might turn to a phone connection instead. But again, our number is 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or just hit pound 690 on your cell phone. And Philip is our first caller now, actually calling from Victoria. Hi, Philip.
Hi. Thanks for.
Yeah, thanks for
Hello?
calling in. Hi, we can hear you. Go ahead. What are you seeing?
Okay.
What's the impact where you live?
Well, I have just come back to Victoria after being away for 30 years. I followed my career off to Ottawa and to Europe after working in Victoria for about 15 years prior to that. And what we've seen is a total transformation of the downtown from a real gem in Canada that had managed to withstand the gutting of downtowns that have occurred across the rest of the country. And the streets just ridden with sites that tend to give you PTSD. Victoria used to be quite a thriving downtown, filled with well-paid workers who were working in offices all over town. They've gone now. That's another contributing factor because people working at home after COVID. But I think there's been a gradual, essentially shedding of people who are essentially being ground out by various factors: cost of living, the drug addiction, and mental illness, and they've coupled with the retreat of government from such things as social housing and help for people with mental illness. And we're here with this problem. There's also a factor, I think, related to the confusion over what people's rights are in this situation. you're witnessing people who are slowly killing themselves in the streets because of these various problems, and yet there's a defense of their actions in terms of rights to housing, which are not fulfilled, and it's just led to a situation where businesses are besieged, as your callers have said, and governments seem, into many ways, to have turned away from it. For instance, the Victoria Council more or less has to be dragged to view this as its primary concern, and the fact that Victoria is part of also a fragmented local government scenario where it has a core that's very small, where most of the people that are in this situation are concentrated.
Philip, I'm going to jump in.
That's what I've come back to.
Yeah, and you've come back after being away for decades, and to see, this is a scene that we've had described to us from people in Victoria repeatedly as well. And a couple of things stand out for me there from what you said was, people having ground down by the cost of living. But as well, you were talking about Victoria. You said having been dragged to deal with this as a priority. And let me go back to my guest. I believe we have Trish Mandewo back. It sounds like, so now we know that Victoria has adopted a $10 million plan to address community safety. But what have municipalities themselves done to address the issue? I know there's right now, trying to push the province to do something about it, but what about municipalities themselves? What have they done?
Yeah, so we have to remember that local governments have spent millions dealing with the fallout from encampments and homeless populations generally. And we have also seen how proactive they have been by waiving costs and contributing land and finances to help the province in delivery of its services. All these are under provincial jurisdiction, but there are limits to the resources that we can provide given the limits of the financial system that local governments work under. We only have one taxpayer. So if everything continues to come to local governments, that means we have to continue to increase the taxes to pay for things that are actually under provincial jurisdiction.
So, from the open letter that mayors in the Okanagan have written, it sounds like mayors feel that they have reached the end of what they can do within their jurisdiction. What more can the province do at this point? What we hear is that David Eby has lobbied the federal government on bail reform. He was in Ottawa just last week talking about that issue as well. What more can the province do?
Yeah, so we are here advocating to the province because we are closest to the province, but in reality, we also need the federal government to actually do federal transfers to the province to help with this issue. And, we also have another issue that I didn't mention, which is the repeat offenders. And we have resolutions in this year's package dealing with bail reform and repeat offenders, right? And the sponsors are looking for stronger sentencing guidelines, harsher penalties, and more stringent probation requirements.
So that would be federal, right?
That's correct. And that's why I said, we are advocating to the province, but hopefully, just like the Premier was in talking to the Prime Minister, that's what we are needing. We need all hands on board.
I wonder how you feel about, concerns that we hear from advocacy groups who say the focus is becoming, so much on dealing with what you can perhaps call the symptoms, but not addressing the underlying causes that have led to this. Is there so much focus perhaps on the public safety and justice that there may be an overlooking of those root causes?
For us from local government, we are actually looking at it holistically. And we're saying it's not only a homelessness issue. It's not only a housing issue. It's a mental health crisis. It's an opioid crisis. And that's why the province needs to have that plan to address all these issues together. We know it's not an easy task. It's definitely complex. But it's been done in other countries. And we know that if they get to the bottom of it, they can actually have that holistic approach to helping these people.
Let's take a call from Brackendale, and Victor is joining us. Hi, Victor. Our question is, what is the impact of street disorder and homelessness in your community?
Well, first of all, I've been to 2 rehab centers, one in New West and one in Powell River. And, well, I'll give you an example. The Powell River one was $1,000 a day. People can't afford that. And the New Westminster one did nothing for me. So, anyways, people can't afford it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the government should step in and make it affordable for these people to get in there.
What's been the impact on your life, Victor, if I may ask?
Pretty well. I started this at 70 years old. I got into a rabbit hole of depression and couldn't get out of it. So that was the solution, but it sort of worked. Like I said, people can't afford it.
It's the cost. And did you have to go on a wait list as well?
Not for either one of them, but like I said, money-wise, the ordinary Joe can't afford this.
$1,000 a day?
A day.
$1,000
one
a day.
on Powell River, and the other one was probably about $500 a day.
Okay. These were privately run, I would imagine?
So who can afford that?
Yeah, who can afford it? Victor, thank you so much. I wish you all the best, and thanks for calling us from Brackendale. Underlying all of this, Trish, is the cost of trying to access mental health as well. What is being discussed at the UBCM when it comes to that?
Yeah, so under the mental health, we actually have Dr. Vigo, who is the appointed scientist by the province, who's going to be doing a session to talk about the involuntary care that Premier Eby announced at our convention last year.
Right. What about the cost, though? The cost of accessing healthcare, mental health care.
Exactly. So the cost, again, falls on the province, and we are calling on them to make sure that they put all the necessary, funding that needs to go into that, which is one thing to promise to say we're going to do this, but what we need to do to see at the budget lines so that these issues can be addressed.
Let's take another call here now. Jeremy is calling us from Kamloops. Hi, Jeremy. Welcome. What are your thoughts on the impact of homelessness and street disorder?
Good afternoon. I'm actually the president of Business Improvement Areas of BC. This is a topic that we've been following across the province for about the last 8 years, and there has been a steady incline in impact to business operations from both social disruption and criminality. We just released a survey about 2 weeks ago that found that 70% of respondents across the province identified fear and stress as overarching issues with regards to operating their business. And those are specifically related to criminality and social disruption. Here in Kamloops, we're actually currently conducting our annual impact survey. And last year, our 200 business owners in Kamloops identified they'd lost $2 million related to criminality and social disruption. So there's this piece of it, which is the criminality piece. But I also echo what your earlier callers have been saying. There is a real requirement at this time for the province of British Columbia to employ a whole-of-government approach to street engagement, to access to low-barrier and simplified housing, to tiered housing modeling. It's not just one thing that we can focus on. It is a vast array of issues. And like I say, we've been talking with Minister Young and others for the last number of years and trying to move the needle on this issue. And we are so thankful UBCM is bringing it up.
What's happened with those discussions with the province?
Well, there seems to be a lot of talk, as we often get sometimes when we're engaging with government. The reality is, at the municipal level, we see municipalities trying to step in and, in many ways, overstep their responsibility to meet the needs of community for community safety and other issues. But the reality is that the legislative requirement to address these issues rests solely with the provincial and the federal government. And the challenge now for small municipalities is they can only go so far before it begins to impact taxation, affordability, and other issues as well. So it is an incredibly complex process. but it all starts with an integrated care program, which we do not have in BC. And I can tell you, I was supposed to travel to Calgary next week. It's been moved a couple weeks, but I'm talking to BIA in Calgary as well, and they're having the identical issues that we are having here in BC. So it is not just a provincial issue, it is a national issue, and it is of extreme importance to the affordability of business, the survivability of business, and to the safety of our communities.
Jeremy, thank you very much for the call from Kamloops. As the president of the BC Business Improvement Association, so that's the different BIAs around the province coming together in one group, and that's Jeremy Hyten, who's the president there. Trish Mandewo, as I wrap up with you here, you know, what he said there, that it sounds like municipalities are doing as much as they can, perhaps even overstepping, but really the responsibility lies with the province and the federal government. So how are municipalities feeling, you know, the mayors and councillors like yourself heading into this meeting, dealing with these issues that, you know, a lot of it does fall out of your jurisdiction? How do you even start to approach that this week and today?
Yeah, so we all understand that we need to get British Columbians working, and that starts with making things safer for businesses, and without constantly having to deal with vandalism or theft or disarray, as Jeremy was mentioning. And we have an intersecting mental health and opioid crisis at the same time. So these issues are not going away. So we need, when the courts look at it, we need them to get serious about dealing with repeat offenders. That will help on one side. On the other side, you can look at our UBCM executive that came with a resolution asking the province to take a regional approach.
Trish, I'm just going to pause you here and let our TV viewers know that we're going to head into an ad break. We'll be back with you in 2 minutes. My guest, Trish Mandewo. And Trish, my apologies for jumping in, but let us know about that other resolution you were talking about.
Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead.
Oh, right now?
Yes, go ahead, Trish.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I see. Yeah, so I was saying, so our UBCM board is sponsoring a resolution calling on the province to make a regional approach to service delivery so that the resources are shared more widely and within regions, because it is difficult, especially for the smaller communities, to tackle this on their own. And going back to the repeat offenders, you know, local governments have adopted similar resolutions in the past in recognition that not enough consideration is being given to public interest when courts make these determinations. So this issue goes hand in hand with the issue of street disorder. But what I'm hearing from many of our members is that the local residents and businesses are frustrated with this issue and want action to improve on the public safety side. But of course, we cannot ignore the health side as well, mental health and opioid crisis. So we need to take that whole of government approach in dealing with it.
Trish Mandewo, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy convention to join us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Trish Mandewo is chair of the UBCM. We have an email here from Lisa on the downtown situation in Victoria. And she writes, when I moved here from working overseas, I always used to say to myself, I'm so glad we don't have to deal with things like slums in Canada. But the last 6 years in Victoria downtown, Cook Street Village, etc., have just become unsafe areas to walk or go to. Thank you very much for your email, Lisa, writing us from Victoria. We'll continue our discussion here on BC Today, asking you, what is the impact of homelessness? What is the impact of street disorder in your community? And this is as the UBCM annual convention discusses these issues. It is top of mind for them as they get underway in Victoria. Mayors and councillors from around the province meeting this week. We have an email here from Michael who writes, the true measure of any society can be found in how it treats its most vulnerable. I see people wandering around aimlessly of all ages with very confused and disoriented looks. They are not all violent. There's too much of a gap between the rich and the poor. I do, though, have no patience for violence of any kind or any blatant damage to personal or city-owned property. Michael, thank you for weighing in. bctoday@cbc.ca is our email address. More of your calls, and we'll speak with the mayor of Kelowna as well, who's one of the mayors who's written a public letter calling for changes to bail reform and looking at this issue. So we'll speak with Mayor Tom Dyas coming up in our next half hour and take more of your calls on this. Right now it is time for a CBC News update, and here's Robert Zimmerman.
Good afternoon. The BC Ostrich Farm, facing a cull, says a number of police vehicles and waste disposal trucks are currently outside the property in the community of Edgewood. A farm spokesperson says they have been notified there are 3 search warrants being served. In a statement, the RCMP say they are supporting the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, which has been granted lawful authority to execute a search warrant. The labor dispute between public service workers and the province has spread to liquor and cannabis distribution, with picket lines now extended to 3 warehouses. The union representing workers says it has been trying to avoid job action that would disrupt frontline services, but it has no choice but to sharply escalate in an effort to get the province back to the table. And Vancouver City Councillor Rebecca Bly is planning to run for mayor. Bly was elected as part of Mayor Ken Sims' majority slate on council, but in February she was dropped from the party, with Sims saying she wasn't aligned with ABC priorities. She now sits as an independent. And now the forecast on the North Coast. Rain this afternoon with a high of 14. Highs around 18 with a chance of showers and strong winds in the Peace. In the central interior, including Prince George, periods of rain with a high of 13. Highs up to 21 with sunshine this afternoon in the Kootenays. In the southern interior, including Kelowna, sunny with a high of 22. And for Metro Vancouver, Greater Victoria, and the Fraser Valley, mainly sunny this afternoon with highs around 19. That's your CBC News update from Vancouver.
Thank you so much, Rob. Rob Zimmerman in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. We have more now on the BC Ferries issues over the weekend, continuing into today. So coastal BC ferry travelers will continue to deal with ongoing disruptions to the Sunshine Coast today. The Queen of Surrey is out of service after a mechanical failure on Saturday that stranded hundreds of passengers. Now, the vessel runs the Horseshoe Bay to Langdale route. And Scott Rushton got caught up in the disruption on Saturday. He was stranded overnight on the way to his home in Sept, and he spoke to Stephen Quinn this morning on the Early Edition.
There are hundreds of people in the same boat. I mean, the parking area behind us going up the hill was absolutely jam-packed. Wow. And in fact, we spoke to someone at 6 o'clock yesterday morning who had been also in the same predicament the evening before. And he returned to the ticket booth at 7 p.m. Saturday night, hoping to get in the back of the line and maybe get on a ferry, and they turned him away.
Wow.
Yeah, they said that there were sufficient vehicles already in the lot to fill the upcoming ferries. Unfortunately, what some people don't seem to realize, the ferry system for those of us who live on the Sunshine Coast is basically a lifeline.
Yeah,
it's
your highway.
It's our highway, and it's our lifeline to the outside world, so to speak. We have no other recourse if we have medical appointments, if we have to work in the city. That's the only place we can go.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, over the years, we've lived here 3 years and been traveling here for 10. Service has decreased rather than improved. We never travel anywhere on the ferry unless we have a reservation.
Now, BC Ferry said in a statement, "We know this disruption has had a significant impact on our customers, and while our teams are working around the clock, the reality is that older vessels require complex, time-intensive repairs." "12:35 now. You're with BC Today. I'm Michelle Elliott. Thanks so much for being with us. And we are discussing an issue that's top of mind at the Union of BC Municipalities. Its annual convention underway starting today in Victoria. And a major item on the agenda is what's being called public disorder. and its impact on local communities, on downtown communities, and we're taking your calls on this. What is the impact of street disorder and homelessness in your community in BC, and what do you think can finally solve it? Our number is 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or just hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can also email bctoday@cbc.ca. And our TikTok Live is having some technical issues right now. So unfortunately, we're not able to watch your comments on TikTok. But do join us on YouTube. We are live streaming there. Just search for CBC British Columbia. My guest right now is Kelowna Mayor Tom Dyas. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the invitation.
There was an open letter from Okanagan mayors on this issue, and specifically looking at repeat offenders. How significant is the issue in Kelowna now?
Well, the letter that we formatted and sent forward had basically 3 requests on it that we were looking for. We were looking for the federal government to deal with bail reform. I know Sean Fraser is looking at, considering how the federal government will handle that. And we were asking them to look at bail reform with regards to repeat property offenders. We are looking at bringing forward more Crown prosecutors. The limited amount of Crown prosecutors within the system basically create a situation where even if our RCMP and police are creating the file specifically around someone, there is not enough individuals to deal with the caseloads. And then the third is compassionate mandatory care, creating an environment to help those individuals through addiction or mental health who are not able to fit into other areas of the system and are continually cycling through and need some greater form of assistance. So creating a path for them for a better future.
When it comes to this discussion, you put a lot out there, and you referred to the Justice Minister, Sean Fraser. This is a federal issue. What more can the province do? And why is this being discussed at the UBCM in terms of we're going to push the province to do something about it?
Well, the federal issue is specifically just the bail reform.
Yeah.
So that becomes a federal issue. The provincial issue is Crown prosecutors and then compassionate mandatory care. Right. Those would be 2 items that will be continually discussed here in Victoria at UBCM, and that is what we are advocating for the province to do. Now, as an advocate, I do know the province has been advocating for bail reform with regards to repeat property offenders.
Yes.
So to continue to advocate alongside them so that the message becomes clearer and clearer with more individuals stating the importance of it.
And can I ask you then about what you call compassionate mandatory care? This is something that the Premier David Eby has talked about expanding in the province, and the doctor who's heading that push is speaking at the UBCM as well today. When discussions around this, first started, we heard a lot of concerns from mental health advocates that the evidence shows that it doesn't work, that people don't necessarily get better afterwards, and that there is recidivism, or that there's, that they do end up needing care once again. But we seem to be at this point where we're discussing it. They're pursuing mandatory care because people are seeing the issues that they're, on the streets. So do you see the conversation having moved the dial that way to support for mandatory care? And what do you say to concerns that, the evidence shows it doesn't work?
Couple of things there. First of all, we have about 189 municipalities that are represented here at UBCM in Victoria. And the role of municipalities, and all municipalities, are forms of, infrastructure, services, community development. What type of additional economic development can we bring to our communities? Municipalities were never designed specifically to deal with mental health, addiction. Those are items which are outside municipalities. The only way that we can truly deal with them is we increase our RCMP, we increase our bylaw, we increase our social services that are within our communities, which become a substantial cost. We currently have in Kelowna 15 individuals who we know have continually cycled through the system and have over about 1,350 police files attached to those 15 individuals. We recognize that there's systems that we've tried to set up for those individuals who have the ability to look at helping themselves and wanting to try to find a better path forward. And we want to be there to try to maintain that type of supportive housing, maintain that type of health care and assistance for them. But there is a specific group of individuals who regrettably continually cycle through the system due to mental health or due to drug addiction. And with the compassionate mandatory care, the level of acceptance, I believe, of individuals is getting thinner, recognizing that there is a true need to help these individuals find a better path forward. And that's what we are suggesting to be done, establishing a proper process to find them a better path forward.
Do you worry, acknowledging the issues that the downtown businesses and the communities are faced with, do you worry about increased stigma for people who are unhoused, people who are dealing with addiction as a result? Let me just read this email to you that we've received from Teresa, who writes, this can be solved if they would make gated communities for the ones that have received housing, or use electronic devices to keep them in their places during the night. And you can see, the concern there around perhaps criminal activity happening overnight, and that's what she's writing about. But I wonder if then there are concerns around the way people who are struggling with these issues are viewed.
Well, I'm going to share a story that happened in Kelowna then to probably make it a little bit easier. We established 180 tiny homes. In the first round of introduction, the first 120 that went into those tiny homes, through a process of care, through a process of working alongside them, through a process of just finding a better path forward. Within that first year, we had 66 individuals who either found supportive housing, who either reunited with family, or also went to Interior Health and found a better path forward. So this isn't about putting someone in a position to kind of be locked up or locked away or something along that lines. This is a very compassionate way to say, there are a certain number of residents, a certain number of individuals within all of the communities, the 189 that I said, within British Columbia and across Canada, who need a better path forward. And this mandatory compassionate type of care, not care that only lasts for a week or 2 weeks, something that is going to be more solid and put them on a better path forward. Because as I mentioned, as municipalities, it's not, what we manage day in and day out, yet it is expensive, and we need assistance in managing it better. So that's why we're coming to the federal government and also the provincial government to assist us in managing the structure moving forward.
My guest is the Mayor of Kelowna, Tom Dyas, and we're taking your calls as well, asking you, what is the impact of street disorder and homelessness in your community? And what can finally solve these issues? Our numbers, once again, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or just hit #690 on your cell phone. I do see a lot of emails coming in to bctoday@cbc.ca, so thanks for sending them there. Right now, let's go to John in Surrey. What are your thoughts on this, John?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts. I don't know if I could share them all, but look, I live in Surrey, and I see a lot of things that are happening in the city of Surrey. A lot of interventions, a lot of things, new housing being built for the homeless, but it just seems that the homeless problem just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We actually have on my street a pharmaceutical company that comes and delivers drugs to people living in the forest. And, and I totally get the humanity and the situation and the problems that are there. And I look at, what the UBCM and all these other municipalities are asking for. Like you say, 189 municipalities. It's not just BC, it's national. We're talking millions and millions of dollars that need to be spent, and who's going to pay for that? And the one thing I would just say is that the federal and the provincial government need to really seriously look at their budgets. And one of the things they got to stop doing is giving billions and billions of dollars to oil and gas companies that are some of the wealthiest corporations in the world that are pleading hardship. If we took that money, we would not have any problems with homelessness, healthcare, or infrastructure development.
Okay.
And I'll just leave it there. I mean, because like we're spending billions and billions on waste of taxpayers' dollars, just making other people more wealthy and not taking care of the people that need it.
John, thank you so much for the call. Different levels of government involved in this. Tom Dyas is my guest, the mayor of Kelowna, and I know you have to go in about 4 minutes from now. I know what you're calling for when it comes to your letter, but the way he's described it there is that it just seems intractable. The homelessness issue has just grown despite the efforts that he's seen locally in Surrey.
Yeah, there are many layers to this, and thank you, John, for your comments with regards to it. And there's crossovers with respect to what he's looking for and what he's commenting on. But I do need to share that we've come to these conclusions that we have been able to kind of simplify, stating that we feel, or we truly know, that there'll be differences made in communities if we're able to deal with the bail reform, if we're able to deal with Crown prosecutors, and if we're able to deal with compassionate mandatory care. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to create communities that are safer, and then we're also recognizing that there's a certain number of individuals that they've fallen through the system, and they need a better process to move forward. Homelessness as itself, and as I've been informed, is it's not illegal to be homeless, and regrettably, people have fallen upon it for a large variety of reasons. But I also truly believe that when municipalities are going to take a position stating these are the changes that we need to do, they also need to have a plan to directly deal with those people within those municipalities who are experiencing that, and give them a path to find a better way out. And I also share with John the costs associated with this. I know exactly what the cost is on our community, and it is great. And it is not a cost that municipalities initially were dealing with, because they're not structured to deal with mental health and addictions. And the only way we can do it is by increasing the protective services or increasing our terms. So if we want to create healthier communities, this is one of the steps to create healthier communities, so we can focus on the items we're supposed to focus on, also bringing a stronger economic impact to the province of British Columbia. Do
you think the province can afford any more, offering up any more resources, given more than $11 billion deficit?
I truly believe, and probably this is shared through a lot of different communities, I truly believe that they cannot afford not to address this situation. It is going to continually find a route, and it's going to continually move unless they address the situation. So, with all the reports that we've gone through with regards to the different studies, and I obviously can't get into them at this particular point in time, but that's why we have dealt with the suggestion that these items are going to help communities become safer, and we can't afford not to address them.
Really appreciate your time. I know it's a busy time in Victoria right now. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity. Take care.
You too. That's Tom Dyas, Mayor of Kelowna. And we will continue to take more of your calls on this as we ask you what is the impact of street disorder and of homelessness in your community. Our numbers again, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. Or just hit pound 690 on your cell phone. And we are watching your emails to bctoday@cbc.ca. Having this discussion as today is the first day of the annual Union of BC Municipalities Convention. They're meeting in Victoria, and top of mind is issues around street disorder, homelessness, and mental health as well. Carol is joining us now from Richmond. Hi, Carol. Welcome to the show. What's the impact of these issues in your community?
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, well, we have in Richmond, we have 2 modular units, and each one has 40 people living in it that came off the street. And what should have happened is they should have got the help that they needed, and they should have moved on to regular housing. Instead, I know in one of them, there's about 6 people who are clean and sober, and there's nowhere for them to go. And so the continuum of housing that we were promised when we opened up those 2 modular complexes has stopped. It's like there's the next step isn't coming. And I'm really concerned. We have affordable housing at the corner of 2 and Blundell. And so BC Housing has said they're going to redo it. They're going to build a brand new and double the units. The problem is half of them are going to be market rent, and only half are going to replace the ones that they're tearing out. This is not a solution. We need to create far more affordable housing and secure housing, secure care. It's desperately needed for people that have addiction or have mental health issues.
And so what's needed to fill that gap then, Carol?
Well, the next step, like when we agreed to do the 2 modular housing units, we were told this was the first step from homelessness into your own little place with a toilet and a little mini kitchen. And then as people got better, they would move on to other forms of affordable housing. And eventually there'll be, members of society who are actually productive. But without that next step, people are stuck. And so we can't just keep building more of what we have. We have to look to the continuum of housing and continue the level of care as people move on.
Okay. Carol, thank you.
People can get over it.
People can get over it. Okay. Yeah. Carol, appreciate your call. Thank you so much for letting us know, the picture in Richmond. Cole is our next caller now from Vancouver. Hi, Cole. What's the impact of homelessness, of street disorder?
I mean, first I just want to start by applauding Mayor Dyas for his work and everybody at UBCM who's trying to tackle this issue. I think we have a lot of very smart, intelligent, capable people working on solutions, and that's great to see. Now, I live in Vancouver. I've lived in Nanaimo. I've lived in Kelowna. I've seen street disorder present all across the province. I've had conversations with people who live in homeless encampments, and by and large, a lot of the people who I've encountered were men who had previously worked in the trades, who had become injured, and then became addicted to drugs through that. Or it was people who had other disabilities or had aged out of foster care. So for every dollar that we spend trying to deal with the homelessness problem and incarcerating people and talking about solutions that are more based on law and order, we're missing the biggest bucket, which is prevention. If we can, and like the Ministry of Family Development recently extended the age so that youth in care don't have to age out and go on what they used to call the superhighway to homelessness. The ministry is now giving them further support so that, kids through their 20s, just as you would if you had parents supporting you, can have another path. That's not the street. But the other thing is we need to look at these working men who are the most likely to die of overdoses, who are getting injured, who are working these tough jobs, and are the ones who you see out there. I think that if we figure out who is there, what experiences they're having, what their big problems are, and how they became homeless in the first place, we could put better dollars into prevention to make it so that they don't have to end up there at all. And largely, I think, if we can increase the disability rate for people, we'd see less homeless. If we support our kids in foster care as they age out, we'll see less homeless people. And if we can support more of these men working in trades who get banged up working these jobs and get addicted to these hard drugs, we will also see homelessness go down. So it's really, for me, it's about prevention. And if we can't do that, we're just going to see the continuing problem over and over and over and over again.
Cole, really good to hear from you. What a picture you present there of the root causes and that point you make about prevention and getting to that. Thank you so much for the call. Ellie is our next caller now in Vancouver. Hi, Ellie. What do you think can actually solve these issues?
Yeah, thanks for taking my call, Michelle. I just want to say shout out to Cole. Those are fantastic points there. I definitely agree. I think it's time for some sort of universal basic income. We're also stretched trying to get by. When we see community members in despair in our public spaces, we don't see the human anymore. We see a cautionary tale. And we've seen homelessness increase. What else has increased? The gap between the rich and the poor. Like, working class people are vulnerable and we're being drained. We need a culture cultural shift in the society. Our rat race, dog-eat-dog world doesn't allow solidarity or basic human empathy because this capitalist system is inherently anti-human and humiliating to participate in. So we need a cultural shift.
Ellie, thank you so much for the call. And our last commentator on this right now on the phone lines is Sarah, joining us from New Westminster. Our questions today, Sarah, what is the impact of homelessness and of street disorder in your community, and what can finally solve it?
Hi, yeah. What I experience, I work in mental health, and just the issue around the how strong the drugs have become. We're seeing more psychosis and more issues like that with our clientele. And the problem is there's just not enough doctors, there's not enough psychiatrists to help these people. So I think something that needs to be addressed or is often overlooked is just how strong these drugs are and how much damage they do long term.
Yeah, and you're speaking as someone who works in mental health, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think that's something as well that the Together We Stand group brought up in their interview with CBC as well. So really appreciate your call from New Westminster. A lot of emails coming in on this too. Rose writes from Victoria, as someone who recently tried to help a friend navigate getting into housing and treatment, the process is very hard to navigate and is very complicated. There are many facets of government and or community services that don't speak to each other. And so depending on your case, you're pointed here and there by organizations and end up going around in circles. What I think would be very useful is to have one organization who works with that person and is able to refer them to other services based on their needs. People get so lost trying to navigate the system. Thank you very much, Rosa, for your call, your email. And another one here from Damien, who writes, what's needed is facilities that are large enough to take in anybody that wants to come in off the street and get off drugs 100%. They'd be large enough to provide housing, but also programs to help with people getting back into the workforce. Thank you very much as well, Damien. BC Today at cbc.ca is where you can send us more of your thoughts. And of course, much more coverage on the UBCM as it holds its annual convention in Victoria. Mayors and councillors from around the province heading there. Top of mind, top topic is street disorder and homelessness. We'll continue to follow that for you here on CBC.